Chapter 391, Commander's Fight. Commander Swordsman is powerful indeed. I deserve to lose, Huang Fu Hao said respectfully. He saw Swordsman with a long sword on his back and knew that he must be adept at sword principle, but the commander defeated him without using any weapons, which proved his strength. You're also very strong, Jian Wushuang replied with a smile. At this moment, ha, our new commander seems good. Hearty laughter erupted. Then they saw a brown-haired man flying toward them in the air. With a giant axe on his back, the man looked arrogant. Shiling, do you want to have a fight? Lei Dao looked at the man with a smile. Sure, it's rare to meet a new commander. How could I miss such an opportunity? The brown-haired man laughed and soon appeared before Jian Wushuang. Shiling? Jian Wushuang looked at him. Shiling is also a commander. He is a bit stronger than me, Lei Yun added. Oh. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. Swordsman, come on, let's fight. Shiling stared at Jian Wushuang with sparkling eyes. Commander Shiling, please teach me some moves, Jian Wushuang replied with a faint smile. Hearing this, the sergeants in black armor became excited. Commander Swordsman accepted the challenge. Two commanders are fighting. All the sergeants looked excited. Shiling grinned. The moment he stepped forward, a huge axe shadow slashed out. So fast. Jian Wushuang was not only shocked at his speed, but also his momentum. I need to draw my sword. Jian Wushuang made his decision. The Lonely Heart sword appeared in his hand, and immediately slashed at the axe shadow. Clang! A loud crash came out. Suddenly, Shiling emanated a violent and overwhelming aura. His strength erupted. Hua! 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 Streaks of axe shadow continuously swept toward Jian Wushuang with the momentum of a landslide or tsunami. Every stroke was fast and powerful. Too fast. Jian Wushuang waved his long sword to block it, but he was barely able to resist and was forced to retreat. The axe shadow's power and speed did not decrease, and even became fiercer. I'll lose if it keeps going on like this. Jian Wushuang realized that he had to change his tactics. Then a slaughter domain spread out. Domain? Shiling did not take it seriously. The domain had a little effect on an expert who had reached the pinnacle of the Saint Realm. It did not work at all on an expert who had reached stage 2 of the realm. Shiling immediately saw waves spreading when Jian Wushuang performed domain. Each wave, which was full of great sword essence, looked the same as the effect of domain, but it was more powerful than the latter. It was the first-grade sword technique. Multifold Realm. A year ago, when Jian Wushuang stayed in the Nanyang continent, he had just started practicing Multifold Realm, and could only display the first realm. Then he had traveled around the endless territories for a year and kept practicing. Now he could perform the second move of Multifold Realm, the Tenfold Realm. Jian Wushuang performed Tenfold Realm and Slaughter Domain simultaneously. Although Slaughter Domain posed little threat to Shiling, after all, Tenfold Realm was a first-grade sword technique. Jian Wushuang exerted his full strength to perform the two, and imposed great pressure on Shiling, whose movements immediately slowed down. The speed of both his axe shadow and body dropped dramatically. Now I can fight against you. Jian Wushuang wore a faint smile. He suddenly rushed toward his opponent while weaving out a sword shadow. Damn it! His domain can suppress me to this extent? Shiling turned pale. In the Tenfold Realm, he was attacked by sword essence at every moment, as if he was stuck in the mud. Lei Dao wore a weird look while watching this fight. I didn't expect that Swordsman had such a powerful skill. Shiling might be forced to concede. Ha, he is so arrogant. It's good to teach him a lesson. Our new commander has a powerful skill indeed. The combination of Sword Realm and Slaughter Domain could brutally suppress Shiling. Several commanders stood beside Lei Dao. They all came to watch this fight. They were shocked by the realm technique Jian Wushuang performed and envied him in their heart. Everybody knew such a technique helped a lot in a fight. With the help of the Tenfold Realm and Slaughter Domain, Jian Wushuang took the initiative to fight back. Soon he got the upper hand. Though they fought fiercely for a while, Jian Wushuang remained at an advantage. Good. This feels so good. Jian Wushuang became excited, his eyes gleaming with joy. Shi Ling was powerful indeed. Though he was suppressed by the tenfold realm, he could block all the attacks from his opponent. If I don't show my trump card, it will be hard for me to beat him. Jian Wushuang thought. He had exerted his full strength, but could barely prevail, so if he wanted to defeat Shi Ling, he had to use his trump card now. He had lots of trump cards, including the Azura secret skill, double first-grade sword soul, mind's eye sword technique, heart-killing sword technique, triple kill sword. Nevertheless, Jian Wushuang had no such plan, as he was enjoying this fight. By contrast, Shi Ling suffered terribly in the realm. Ikit, ikit. Shi Ling suddenly snarled and then directly retreated to the side. Jian Wushuang stopped and looked at Shi Ling with a faint smile. Your realm skill is too odd. I felt suppressed in such a realm and could not show my strength, Shi Ling said in a low voice. Ha ha, Shi Ling, you lost the fight. Don't find an excuse for yourself, Lei Dao said with a smile. Yep, Sword Realm is one of Swordsman's skills. You want him to hide his real strength? Tut, it's rare to see Shi Ling being forced to concede. Laughter rang out. Lei Dao and the other commanders all stepped forward. Chapter 392, The Cave Mansion Opens. Swordsman, let me introduce them. Lei Dao pulled Jian Wushuang and said. This is Boozer, a crazy drunk. Lei Dao pointed at a white-robed young man, who looked drunk. With skittish eyes, the man seemingly led a dissolute life. This is Yao Mai, a completely evil spirit. Jian Wushuang saw the beautiful lady with a hot figure staring at him with a spurious smile. He was scared. This is Yun He. Lei Dao pointed to a middle-aged man, whose mild smile was like a gentle spring breeze. You have fought with Shi Ling, so no need to introduce him, Lei Dao said. I'm Swordsman, nice to meet you, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Swordsman, you have an amazing skill. Even Shi Ling lost to you. You're really powerful, Yao Mai said. Hearing this, Shi Ling could not help but curl his lips. Small tricks. It doesn't deserve a mention, Jian Wushuang said modestly. It's not a small trick. Such a powerful technique would help you a lot in a fight. Yun He looked over and said seriously, moreover, you're already so fast and have a powerful body. Maybe you're not the strongest among us, but looking just at your ability to protect yourself, you would be number one. That's true. Lei Dao, Yao Mai, and other commanders nodded in agreement. Even if you can't fight against General Qing at stage 3, you can survive. At this point, you're stronger than us. The other commanders seemingly said casually. In fact, they were envious of Swordsman's ability. During the fight with Shi Ling, Jian Wushuang's overall strength might not be impressive, but his ability to defend and survive was amazing. In this vast divine land, it did not matter how strong one was, as there was always someone stronger. However, it was most important for someone to have an exceptional ability of self-preservation. As long as you could stay alive, you would have an opportunity to improve your strength. By the way, including myself, there are 13 commanders in our first army, right? Where are the other commanders? Jian Wushuang suddenly asked. Right, there are 13 commanders in total. 2 commanders are carrying out their tasks and the others have gone to Flaming Battlefield, so only we're left to guard Demon Heart Canyon, Yun He replied. Flaming Battlefield? Jian Wushuang was surprised. What's the matter with Flaming Battlefield? It's a crazy, violent battlefield, where the 2 marquises have fought against each other, but we don't know the real situation in there, because we haven't been there, Yun He said with a wry smile. You haven't been there? Jian Wushuang couldn't help but be astonished. I'd like to. After all, there are more experts in Flaming Battlefield. If I go there, I would have opportunities to fight a large number of top experts, but our Lord said I'm not strong enough, so he has no plans to send me there. Lei Dao spoke. Jian Wushuang was shocked in private. Lei Dao had reached stage 2 of Pinnacle of the Saint Realm. If he was not qualified to go Flaming Battlefield, what level are the experts who are battling in Flaming Battlefield? Don't think too much. Just improve yourself. If your strength improves, our Lord will send us there in the future, Yun He said. You're right. Lei Dao nodded and then grinned. Commander Swordsman has just arrived. Let's hold a party to welcome him. Let's go for a drink. The commanders walked into a tent and started drinking. Jian Wushuang stayed in Demon Heart Canyon. He usually cultivated by himself. Sometimes he would spar with the other commanders. They all got along well with each other. A month passed in the blink of an eye. Over at the campsite, Jian Wushuang stood in the air while emanating his sword realm. He was trapped within it. With the help of Tenfold Realm, Jian Wushuang used his full strength to launch attacks. Although he could parry all of them, he was still at a disadvantage. Guess how long he can persist? Lei Dao asked with a smile. He was sitting by a long narrow table with Yao Mai, Boozer, and Shiling above the void. If he can hold for 20 breaths worth of time, that's awesome. Shiling glanced at the battlefield. He had fought with Jian Wushuang several times, so he was very clear how terrifying Jian Wushuang's sword realm was. If Jian Wushuang did not perform sword realm, Shiling could easily get the upper hand, but once the sword realm was displayed, he immediately lost ground. Shiling knew that what tortured him the most was the feeling of being suppressed in the sword realm. He had great strength, but could not show all of it. I quit. After a while, he conceded. Soon he and Jian Wushuang came back. Swordsman, your sword realm suppressed me so much. He sighed. Jian Wushuang wore a smile. He often sparred and drank with these commanders, so they were familiar with each other. These commanders were powerful indeed. If he did not show his trump card, Jian Wushuang could not defeat any of them and could only have the upper hand at most. Therefore, Jian Wushuang gained a lot from his fights with them over the month. Come on, let's have a drink. Lei Dao raised a wine cup. Jian Wushuang was about to take it. Suddenly, buzz. Invisible waves spread out. It shook so heavily that all the people in Demon Heart Canyon perceived it. This is... Their expressions changed. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Jian Wushuang and other commanders appeared in the sky and looked at the bottom of the canyon. They saw a stream of cyan energy flowing out. Though it was powerful, the cyan energy seemed on the edge of collapse. The cyan energy comes from the formation outside the cave mansion? Jian Wushuang thought. Whoosh! A figure appeared beside them. General Qing. They all noticed and cried out. The formation is going to dissipate. General Qing sighed and then gave an order. Go tell our lord. Chapter 393. A fight in front of the cave mansion. The First Army, assemble. General Qing's voice resounded loudly over Demon Heart Canyon. A large number of black-armored sergeants flew up and assembled above the void. There were a dozen teams comprising more than 1,000 sergeants. These teams were led by 6 commanders. The amassed sergeants emanated a formidable and oppressive aura, which materialized as a black torrent. It looked as though an ancient beast had crept out and was lying in wait for its prey. Silver-winged army has started to assemble. Jian Wushuang saw numerous sergeants in silver armor gather in the opposite mountain. All of them possessed a powerful aura. It seems that we'll have a protracted battle. Lei Dao, Yao Mai, and the other commanders looked grim. The Iron Saber Army and Silver-Winged Army had camped here for the cave mansion. Both sides wanted to wrest control of the cave mansion. They would have to fight for it when the formation dissipated. At this moment, they waited. All eyes were fixed on the cyan formation. The formation was in chaos. A large amount of frenzied energy radiated in all directions, weakening the power at its core. The formation's power had dwindled. Suddenly, bang! With a crack, the cyan formation eventually collapsed as expected. Experts waiting at both ends of the canyon noticed the break in the formation. Go! General Qing shouted as he moved toward the bottom of the canyon. The 6 commanders and their sergeants followed General Qing down. Rumble. The atmosphere was intense as a large number of figures swarmed into the bottom of the canyon like wasps. On the opposite mountain, experts of Silver-Winged Army dived forward. Block them. A low growl sounded from the Silver-Winged Army. As their spiritual power gushed out, sergeants of the silver-winged army launched a mighty attack. There were more than 1,000 silver-winged army sergeants attacking in tandem. Every attack was launched by an expert of the Saint Realm. What a magnificent scene! Even Jian Wushuang was somewhat frightened. The sergeants of the Iron Saber army reacted quickly and lashed out with their own strikes. Attacks from both sides collided fiercely with each other. Rumble! The whole area shook violently as if it were the end of days. The impact from the attacks caused the mountains around the canyon to collapse. Demon Heart Canyon completely disappeared. This is terrifying. Jian Wushuang was numb with shock. The head-on confrontation between the two powerful armies was terrifying in its power and scope. Jian Wushuang was strong, but even he might be torn apart if he was involved in the battle. The battle strength of commanders at Stage 2 was insignificant compared to the two armies. General Qing led his army toward the gate of the cave mansion. The silver-winged army is fully prepared for this fight. Obviously, it is impossible for us to take the entire cave mansion. We'll have to find a way to gain an advantage. General Qing's eyes flashed as he issued an order. Ordinary sergeants, stay outside the cave mansion. Commanders, go inside with me. Yes. Jian Wushuang and the other commanders responded. The sergeants of the Iron Saber army stopped before the gate, while General Qing rushed into the cave mansion with the 6 commanders. Several figures from the silver-winged army also glided forward. They possessed powerful aura and were led by a semi-naked bald man with vicious eyes and 3 fire marks on his left arm. The 3 origin marks showed that the bald man was a top expert at Stage 3. General Qing, it's been a long time since we met. The last time we met was in Flaming Battlefield, right? The bald man's laughter reverberated through the area. Wu Ta. General Qing looked at the bald man, eyes narrowing. General Qing, we were comrades in Flaming Battlefield, but now we have to fight each other for our own lord's benefit, so don't take it personally, Wu Ta said in an undertone. That's what I wanted to tell you too. General Qing snorted. Okay, let's fight. Wu Ta shouted. Wu Ta's 7 commanders, all of whom were experts at Stage 2, leaped forward. Go! General Qing responded in kind. Jian Wushuang and other 5 commanders immediately moved forward, with a cold look in their eyes. General Qing fought Wu Ta, who, like him, was an expert at Stage 3. Jian Wushuang and the other 5 commanders attacked the 7 commanders from the silver-winged army. A fierce fight erupted in front of the cave mansion. An aquamarine-haired lady appeared quietly before Jian Wushuang and lashed out with her aquamarine whip. A torrent of strange waves began to flow. Viper-like, the long whip flashed across the sky at incredible speed and began to twine around Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang gathered a surge of power in his hand. He clenched his hands and punched the whip, unleashing the amassed power. As his punch landed, Jian Wushuang felt as if he had hit a ball of cotton. Meanwhile, the long whip wrapped around his wrist. Chapter 394, Bluestone Corridor. It's strange. Jian Wushuang was inwardly shocked as the aquamarine long whip twisted around his arm like a vine. He recovered quickly and a surge of soaring sword essence erupted from him. His hands shook and threw off the long whip. Swish! Jian Wushuang drew his long sword and dashed forward. The lady with long aquamarine hair wielded her long whip casually. Shadows cast by the whip changed into waves, surging forward. Jian Wushuang felt as if he was falling into a vast sea. The continual lashing waves made it hard for him to free himself and suppressed his strength. The woman comprehends water drop origin so well. While he was struggling, Jian Wushuang noticed 2 origin marks on the lady's arms. These marks meant that she was at the peak of Stage 2. Jian Wushuang assessed the current situation. General Qing's army was led by 6 commanders. On the other hand, the silver-winged army led by Wu Ta had 7 commanders. These commanders were at Stage 2, so one more person could give them an advantage if both sides were matched in terms of skill. It was therefore unsurprising that the silver-winged army already had the upper hand. I must do something. Jian Wushuang radiated an overwhelming sword essence. Invisible waves began to spread out and covered the entire battlefield. Sword Realm, Tenfold Realm. Slaughter Domain also started to sweep out. The two skills were combined into a deadly attack. What? The experts of the silver-winged army felt themselves enveloped by a flow of invisible power. It was as though they were stuck in mud with their movements restricted. Realm technique? How powerful! The silver-winged army experts were astounded and rendered helpless by the attack. On the other hand, the Iron Saber army commanders remained unaffected. This caused some excitement among the commanders. Ha ha, Swordsman, good job. Swordsman, I love you. Lei Dao and Yao Mai cried out. General Qing glanced at Zhen Wushuang in surprise. HMPH. Zhen Wushuang snorted. He resumed his fight with the lady with long aquamarine hair. As she was now suppressed by the tenfold realm, she could no longer restrict Zhen Wushuang's movements. Because of the tenfold realm, the strength gap between the both sides narrowed. Now the Iron Saber army almost drew even with their opponent. Wu Ta's face fell. I didn't expect that someone from the Iron Saber army would have such an odd technique. The realm sword skill or technique was rare in the vast divine land. It was also a cause of much envy. Wu Ta knew it was impossible to defeat the Iron Saber army and decided to withdraw from the fight. Leave them alone. Let's go inside. Wu Ta repelled General Qing and shouted to his commanders. He rushed into the cave mansion. The silver-winged army commanders followed him inside. Hurry up. Let's follow them. Zhen Wushuang and the other commanders responded to General Qing's orders and darted into the cave mansion. The bottomless broad bluestone corridor came into sight. Candle holders shaped like dragon heads were placed along both sides of the corridor. Instead of candles, the open mouths of the dragon heads held transparent gems which lit the path. This is a cave mansion? Why do I feel that I'm in a huge underground palace? Zhen Wushuang was surprised. Zhen Wushuang and the others moved forward quickly. The Iron Saber army and Silver-Winged army were separated by a short distance, with the former on the left side and the latter on the right side. Both armies remained vigilant, but they did not intend to fight. The corridor is too long. Zhen Wushuang frowned at the bottomless corridor. They had walked for several thousand meters, but still could not see the end of the corridor. But at this moment, Kai! A faint sound rang out. Zhen Wushuang looked at the candle holders along the corridor and saw a sliver of light. Be careful! The words had barely left General Qing when, chew, 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 chew. A forlorn sound of breaking wind sounded. A black flowing light passed through the air and swept towards them, accompanied by streaks of black flowing light shooting from the candlesticks. The flowing light moved quickly with an overwhelming and frightening momentum. Zhen Wushuang reacted first. He struck with his Lonely Heart sword and parried 3 streaks of black flowing light. These landed on the ground and showed themselves to be 3 black arrows made of special materials. The other commanders were also attacked by the black arrows. Shiling, who stood behind Zhen Wushuang, was targeted by 6 arrows. Damn! Shiling paled at the onslaught. He tried to block the 6 arrows using his giant axe. His weapon was powerful, but less flexible than long swords or sabers. He was only able to deflect 4 arrows. The other 2 arrows continued their journey toward his chest and lower abdomen. At the critical moment, Zhen Wushuang stepped forward and blocked Shiling. He deflected the arrow targeting Shiling's lower abdomen, but he had no time to parry the other. The black arrow swiftly crashed into Zhen Wushuang's chest. Chapter 395, The Blood Gems. Swish! With an ear-piercing sound, the black arrow pierced through the void into Zhen Wushuang's chest. Zhen Wushuang felt a sharp pain radiate outwards from his wound and involuntarily let out a suppressed groan. He had been protected by a shield made of spiritual power. However, the arrow had penetrated the shield. Zhen Wushuang's chest had therefore been vulnerable to the arrow. The arrow could pierce the body of an expert of the Saint Realm, but Zhen Wushuang's body was much stronger than an ordinary expert's. As such, the arrow only embedded itself superficially in his skin and muscle. The arrow had failed to pierce through his body or damage his vital organs. Nevertheless, the force of the impact threw Zhen Wushuang and Shiling back several steps. Swordsman, are you all right? Lei Dao and the others nearby looked at Jian Wushuang with concern. I'm fine. When Jian Wushuang regained his balance, he glanced at the arrow in his chest. He removed the arrow and put it in his interspatial ring. His wound was a bloody hole about the size of a finger. As the arrow had not reached his internal organs, he was not badly wounded. Lei Dao and the others were shocked at the scene. Among us, you are the only one who won't die of such an attack, Lei Dao said in admiration. Swordsman, thank you. Shiling looked at Jian Wushuang with gratitude. No big deal. Jian Wushuang replied with a casual smile. He had gotten along well with these commanders in the past month. He saw them as friends. Helping them out when they were in danger was therefore second nature to him. The bluestone corridor had finally quietened down. Those present had been taken aback by the attack of arrows. Fortunately, no lives had been lost. The silver-winged army experts looked at Jian Wushuang with quizzical expressions. They had witnessed how Jian Wushuang had saved Shiling. Being shot by the black arrow is as bad as being attacked by an expert at the pinnacle of the Saint Realm. Moreover, arrows are excellent in piercing the flesh. Even experts of stage 3 can't survive such an attack, but this guy survived? How terrifically strong his body is. His body is as strong as a magic weapon. Amazing. He might not be the strongest one in the Iron Saber army, but he must be the most resourceful one. The silver-winged army experts were jealous of Jian Wushuang's skills. At the gate of the mansion, it had been Jian Wushuang who had helped the Iron Saber army turn the tables using his skill. Having now seen how strong his body was, these experts were doubly impressed. Wu Ta. General Qing looked at Wu Ta and said, "We are in an unusual mansion full of danger, so we'd better stop fighting for the moment." Wu Ta frowned. He glanced at the endless corridor before them, and eventually nodded, "Okay." Other commanders exchanged glances and nodded to themselves. "Guys, slow down and watch your back," General Qing warned. The experts from both sides resumed their path forward at a slower pace. The corridor was interminably long. The experts encountered 2 subsequent black arrow attacks in a mere half-hour. Having learned from their experience in the first attack, the experts deflected the attacks with ease. Finally, they reached the end of the corridor. The end of the corridor led to a capacious, magnificent hall. Its walls were well decorated and covered with paintings. At the center of the hall, there was a pool. Jian Wushuang and the others were on high alert as they walked in and looked around. Except for the luxurious decorations, the hall looked ordinary. The most unusual feature was the pool. The pool was small with an area of 2 to 3 square meters. Notably, the water in it was dark yellow. There were also faint strands of strange energy gathered in it. Jian Wushuang and the others were drawn to the pool. Pale yellow mist rose slowly out of the water. Swish, swish, swish. Beams of yellow light wafted from the pool floated in mid-air. Dozens of beams emerged from the water in succession. The light gradually faded away from the suspended light beams, revealing pieces of light yellow gems. The gems were as small as a baby's fist, but the power in them was intense. What are those? Seeing the gems, everyone was curious. Blood gems. These are blood gems. General Qing's voice resounded in the hall, betraying his excitement at the discovery. Blood gem. Wu Ta recognized the gems as well. He looked thrilled. Jian Wushuang studied the gems and was stunned. He was familiar with those gems, he even owned some. Blood gems. Jian Wushuang was extremely surprised. He had gained a blood puppet in his ancestors' land as a third reward. The puppet was strong, but it was hard to power it as blood gems were required each time for such an operation. According to what Jin Ling had said, the blood gem was extremely precious and rare even in the Divine Land. That was why he had only given Jian Wushuang 3 gems with the puppet. But now,